So we'll get started here soon. There were a lot of attendees who signed up, so I'm just going to wait another minute to let people join. Are Tommy and Peter on the, okay, great. Okay, I think I'm going to get started. We have about 36 people in here. People just trickle in, I guess. So welcome everyone to end term grading in Bruin Learn and MyUCLA. So my name is Greg Steinke. I'm an instructional designer on the LMS transformation project. And if I could get everyone who's helping out today, if you could introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Kate Schaller. I'm also an instructional designer on the transformation project, and I'll be here to answer any questions that you might have. I've been putting a link to the Google Doc in the chat, and I will put it in one more time.
I'm Christopher Martinez. I'm just helping with the questions in the question document. Also, just a trainer in Canvas in Bruin Learn.
And Michael Miller here, instructional designer and trainer for IT services, but also serving in the role of a Canvas trainer for this project and here to answer questions as well. So hello, everyone.
Hello, I'm Peter Blaze. I'm one of the help desk managers at UIT. We're the group responsible for the MyUCLA Gradebook. So we'll help out on that aspect of things in this presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tommy. I'm one of the co-help desk managers at UIT, and I'll be here to help answer questions with regards to MyUCLA Gradebook.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry, Chris, I don't know why your name's not on here, but thank you for helping out today. So during the session, if you have any questions, please use that document that is shared in the chat to add any questions you have. We have a team that just introduced themselves. They will be looking over that Q&A document and putting in answers to your questions. So that's what that document is for. So please use that document. And please mute your microphones as well. Near the end of this session, I'll have time to answer questions, or maybe the whole team, support team can answer questions at that time. If we are going long and people haven't had their questions answered yet, I will stay later to help address those questions. Okay, so for the agenda today, we're going to look at, it's actually two parts. First, we're going to look at and prepare your Bruin Learn Gradebook for accuracy. And what I mean by that is we're going to look through the gradebook and enter zeros for any missing assignments. If there are any assignments that students have an excuse not to submit, how to deal with those, how to post any hidden grades, how to set weighted grades if you haven't done that yet, how to apply your the MyUCLA grading scheme, and then how to calculate any extra credit. So once we do all of that, then our gradebook should be pretty accurate. And then we can choose one of two paths to get our grades to MyUCLA. All of this information is, and if somebody could put this in the chat, that'd be great. Or it's actually in the Q&A document too, but this end of term grading document in your Bruin Learn course site, if you go to help and then Bruin Learn Resources, just opening that up in a new tab, at the very top of the document, we have wrapping up winter grades, view end of term grading guide. So this guide was put together by me, Kate, and Michael. And we basically everything I'm going to talk about today is in this guide. So if you need to refer back to something, take a look at this guide. It walks you through how to set weighted grades, how to apply zeros for missing assignments, how to excuse assignments, and then go through everything in your grade book. And ultimately, you have a couple options to get grades into MyUCLA. So refer back to this guide if you forget a step and you need to review something. Okay. So one of the big things, if there's one message I want you to get out of this training, it is that you need to enter zeros for any missing assignments that you have in your gradebook. The reason being is that the Bruin Learn Gradebook will ignore missing assignments for students and removes the assignment from the grade calculation. If you don't enter zeros for missing assignments, students will see an inflated grade in Canvas that does not accurately represent their actual grade. So I'll show you how to do this, and then I'll show you a way to kind of set this automatically. But this is one of the biggest things. If you don't enter zeros, the Bruin Learn Gradebook will ignore that assignment for students. And when you submit grades to MyUCLA, the MyUCLA will add zeros to missing assignments. So just keep that in mind. So to apply zeros, I have kind of a demo gradebook here where I have 4 assignments, 2 quizzes, and we can see here in red, we have a couple of missing assignments here, and we don't have any points. So currently, Joe Bruin, he's getting an 88%. But that's not accurate because Bruin Learn is skipping over this assignment for that student. It's basically ignoring this calculation for that student. So the student sees 88%, but what MyUCLA will see is much lower than that because it'll calculate a 0 for this. So to make sure that grades match up, you want to go in here and enter a point value, whether it's 0 or something else. But if they didn't submit, we added 0, then we can see that their grade is more accurate here. It's an accurate representation of their grade or what they're going to see in MyUCLA. So look out for any dashes, red cells, and apply, if it's missing work, apply a 0 to that, and your gradebook should be one step closer to being accurate. To do this automatically, let's say you have maybe 300 students in the class, and it's going to be very difficult to kind of go through each thing. At the top of the column, the assignment column, you can click on this ... button and kind of adjust the page here. And then you can set default grade. So if I do that, I can set the default grade to 0. Now, I don't want to hit overwrite already entered grades because I've already entered grades for students, and that would change the grade to 0. So I do not want to hit that checkbox. But for all missing assignments, it'll add a 0 for all missing. So I can set default grade for that. So that's one easy way to kind of go through. You could do that for each column, and then just double check and make sure that you have zeros for any missing assignments. So that's one of the biggest, or one of the main points I have for you today is enter zeros for missing assignments. because a lot of times, when you're first using Bruin Learn, that's one thing that could get skipped over, and that's where you would have kind of a discrepancy between your totals in Bruin Learn and your totals in MyUCLA. The next step is to excuse assignments where applicable. So if you have a student who you gave them an excuse not to submit an assignment, basically you just add EX to their grade cell, and then that would apply excused for that student. So if I go back to my gradebook, let's say this student had an excuse not to submit the assignment. I can type in EX, hit enter, and it's going to put in excused for that student. So MyUCLA won't see this as a 0. It'll see this as excused. Moving through this here, the next thing to do is to look out for any hidden grades. If you have hidden grades, and they won't be visible to your students, and they won't be factored into the overall total grades until the grades are posted visible to students. So if you see it like a little eyeball icon with a cross through it at the top of one of your grade columns, that means that that assignment grade is hidden for students, and you need to post that grade. To do that, I have an assignment here that's hidden. You can see by this icon, this eyeball icon with the cross through it. I can, students won't see their grade. They won't see their scores here for this assignment. Instead, on their view, they would just see this hidden symbol. So to post grades for students, click on this ... button, and then choose post grades. Now this will bring up a pop-up window that says, well, do you want to post grades for everyone or just the graded students? Well, I've already graded all the students, so I can choose everyone, and I'll hit post. Right, it says success, grades have been posted to everyone for assignment 4. So now students will see their grades and the gradebook total. These grades are added to that gradebook total. So those are things just kind of backing up and summarizing, entering zeros for any missing assignments, add EX for any excused assignments in the cells, and post any hidden grades. Make sure to do those to make sure your students are seeing their accurate grades in the Bruin Learn Gradebook. Weighted grades. So typically weighted grades would be set early on in the quarter when you're kind of organizing your course and assignments. But a lot of times, if you're just starting to use Bruin Learn, you might not get to the grading aspect of it until later on in the quarter. And that's fine. I'll show you how to apply weighted grades and what that looks like in the gradebook. So in the gradebook, I don't do anything in the gradebook to apply weighted grades. Instead, what you need to do is go to assignments in the course left navigation menu. So in assignments, this is where you would organize all your assignments by categories or assignment groups, and then apply a weighted grade to each assignment group. So I've cleaned up my assignments page. And for assignments, I have all my assignments, quizzes, I have all my quizzes, and I even have an extra credit column here. I'll talk a little bit more about extra credit later on. But you can change the titles to these. If you don't want assignments, you could have like final paper, and maybe you have an assignment that's an outline, a draft, final paper submission, reflection, all within the final paper assignment group. So when I have all my assignments organized by assignment groups, then I can go ahead and set weighted grades. To do that, there's a dot, dot, dot button up here on the top right. I would select that and choose assignment groups weight. It says weight final grade based on assignment groups. Yes, I'll check that off. And then it shows me here my assignment groups. So I have assignments based on my assignments group here, quizzes based on my quizzes group here, and extra credit based on my extra credit group. Now, what I want to do is make sure that my total for the course is 100%. So I'm going to make sure that that's my total. And what I have here is 80% for assignments, 20% for quizzes. I don't have anything yet for extra credit. I'll talk again about that later. So I'll go ahead and hit save. And now you can see I have 80% for all my assignments. 80% of the total grade is for the assignments. 20% of the total grade is based on the quiz scores. In the gradebook, we see here that that's indicated under the assignments group, 80% of the grade, quizzes, 20% of the grade. So that's how you apply weighted grades. I'll go ahead and I need to actually deselect weighted grades right now because I'm going to talk about different options for extra credit in a little bit. Okay. So that's how you apply weighted grades to assignment groups in your course. The grading scheme. So there is a UCLA standard grading scheme that you can turn on for your course site. It's not on by default for winter courses, but it will be turned on by default for spring, your spring course, summer, and subsequent quarters and semesters. So just keep that in mind. If you have your own grading scheme, or maybe your department grading scheme, if you use that, you can use that in your course, and that grading scheme will be added to MyUCLA when you export grades. So just a couple points here. If the UCLA grading scheme is enabled for the class, then letter grades are calculated by Bruin Learn, and MyUCLA imports those letter grades. If you do not apply the UCLA grading scheme, which is fine, you don't have to do that, MyUCLA uses the default UCLA grading scheme anyway to translate grade percentages to letter grades. So if you don't select it in your Bruin Learn course site, MyUCLA will still use the UCLA standard grading scheme if you haven't selected a different one. So I'm just going to show you how to apply the UCLA grading scheme really quickly. So in your course, I can go down to settings. And then I'll just scroll down and it says here, enable course grading scheme. So I'll go ahead and select that. Now I want to set my grading scheme. So by default, it's using the Canvas grading scheme right now, but this wouldn't copy over. MyUCLA would use the UCLA standard grading scheme. But if I wanted to choose the UCLA grading scheme, I could choose this, select another scheme, and here's the UCLA standard grading scheme. I can scroll down and then choose use this grading standard. So the name here behind the UCLA grading scheme is Matt Heinlein. He is our LMS administrator. So he helps kind of run the workings of Bruin Learn. That's why you see his name here. So I'll choose use this grading standard, and it says here UCLA standard grading scheme. I'll hit done. But I got to make sure that I update course details to save this. So when I do that, if I go back to grades, it'll now show my total has letter grades applied to it. And when you export your grades to MyUCLA, it'll take the UCLA standard grading scheme for the letter grades here. Okay, let's see here. All right, extra credit. I think we're at extra credit, and then I'll show you how to get your grades into MyUCLA. So extra credit, there are two ways to do that. If your course is based on points and you don't have weighted grades, then what you want to do is go to assignments. And right now I don't have weighted grades. I'm just using points, but I have an extra credit assignment group with an extra credit assignment. So this extra credit assignment, as long as it's set for 0 points, that means if students do not complete the assignment, they won't get penalized for it. But if they do complete it and you give them points for it, they'll get bonus points. So that's the trick. If you want them to get extra credit bonus points, you enter 0 for the extra credit. So what this looks like in grades. So if I go through here, I have an extra credit assignment. I can grade here if I want, and I'll just punch in maybe 5 points. Maybe they all did it, except for the last student here. So the last student right now is getting an A. Greg didn't think he needed to do the extra credit. He's got enough points. So if I put a 0 in for Greg, it doesn't affect his score at all because the total extra credit assignment is worth 0 points. So anything above that would be bonus points. So that's how to calculate or create an extra credit assignment using points, sorry. The next one is how to create extra credit using weighted grades, which is a little trick here. Again, I have to go to assignments because that's where we set weighted grades. So going to assignments, the first thing I'm going to do is set weighted grades. So I'm going to go over here and choose assignment groups weight. And in this case, I want more than 100%. Students will be calculated on, what equals up to 100% here. Any extra would be extra for them. So I will do maybe 5%. So now they have 105% for the total for the course. And I'll hit save. Now the thing is, I need some points tied to this assignment for the weighted grades to calculate. So I need to change the point value here from 0 to something else. So maybe I'll say that's worth 10 points. I'll save that. So now if I go into my gradebook, I can see that I gave everyone 5s, which is half of 10 there. So all these students got 50% of the extra credit. The one student who did not do the extra credit, they got a 0% on that, but that didn't affect his grade out of 100%. The 5% is extra. So if let's see, maybe this person got a 10 out of 10. So they would get that total 5% then for the 100%. So I hope that makes sense. So this extra credit, if you For the points, if you set the assignment to 0 points, anything more than 0 points will be bonus points for students. If they got a 0, it wouldn't affect their score at all. For weighted grades, what you want to do is make sure that the course total is over 100%. So if students, if they don't do the extra credit, they're still being graded on 100% of the total points. The 5% is extra. All right, so now let's see where we're at here. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a look at the grades that we have. Just going to do one last review. I'm not going to worry about the test student. The test student is just there for testing purposes. But it looks like I have a grade value for all assignments, my quizzes. I have extra credit in here, and everything is looking good. So my totals here are C, A+, A, and F. So now if I export my grades, I can choose, let me just go back once. The next step will be to export grades to a CSV file from Bruin Learn, and then we're going to check the total score in Bruin Learn, compare that to the final score in the CSV spreadsheet. So in the gradebook, I can choose export, actions, export, and it'll open up the download the CSV. So it'll likely be in your downloads folder. I can choose show in Finder here on a Mac, and I can open this up in Excel. Okay, just a moment. Can everyone see the spreadsheet here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what MyUCLA imports from your exported CSV file from Bruin Learn is basically this column here, the final grade column. So if your final grade column in your CSV, it looks like I got a C, A+, A+, if I go back to my course, C, A+, A+, it looks like that is matching up correctly. So your final grade should, when you export or upload to MyUCLA, they should be accurate. So this option where you export a CSV file from your Bruin Learn gradebook, you can check the final grade. Now it's just the final grade column. It's not the unposted final grade. It's not all these other columns. It's just the final grade column here. So compare this, what you have here, with your total Canvas or Bruin Learn final. And if that matches up, you should be good to go. You have posted all your hidden grades. You've added excused for any excused assignments. Main thing, you've added zeros for any missing assignments. So when all that is done, your grade should match up between the totals that you have here in Bruin Learn and the final grade in the CSV export from Bruin Learn. So once you're done with that, and that looks good to you, then you can bring this into MyUCLA. So to do that, you have a couple options. We're recommending this first option, which was introduced last quarter. And that's basically, we've already done half of this already. So we've already exported a CSV file. So that's what you want to do. You want to export your Bruin Learn gradebook to a CSV file and then upload that to MyUCLA. The other option is new for this quarter, and I'll go through that process after I talk about this first one. So this option where you export a CSV file and upload to MyUCLA, We recommend this again because you can check your CSV file for that final grade score and compare that with your Bruin Learn Gradebook score. And if that matches up, it should upload to MyUCLA and match up there as well. Unfortunately, I can't demo how to do this in MyUCLA by signing into MyUCLA and walking through the steps, because MyUCLA, you can't use test student accounts. We would have to use actual courses with actual student accounts, and we can't show you their IDs and their student names because that would violate FERPA. But what we do have is a handy KB here. So I will just open this up. And this is actually in the end of term grading. It's actually this second one here. How do I export grades from Bruin Learn and upload them to MyUCLA? But I'll open up this demo. And at the top of this KB article or knowledge base article, we again remind you, this is what you got to do to kind of check your grades in Bruin Learn. Enter zeros for missing assignments, enter EX for excused grades, post any hidden assignment grades, enter in any extra credits. If you indicated weighted grades in your syllabus, make sure to use weighted grades in your Bruin Learn assignments page. And so make sure to go through all this. And we also added the link to the end of term grading guide. We've added a video walkthrough on this, so you can check that out. But it basically walks you through the steps here. So we've already exported the CSV file. Again, you would go to grades, hit export, and you would get that file. Next, you would sign in to MyUCLA at my.ucla.edu. And when you do that, you should land on this classes page. Now, if you don't, for some reason, most faculty should, but if you don't, you can go to faculty, the faculty link here, and then there's class instruction, classes, to get to this classes page. So once on this classes page, click on the gradebook link for the class that you want to grade. When you do that, you'll get this page with what looks like 3 options here. What you want to do is go to Gradebook Express. So when you go to Gradebook Express, it brings you to a page here that says upload. This is, you'd hit upload and then find your CSV file. One thing to note, this gradebook menu is pretty handy. It's taking you directly to final grades. So I'll go to upload, and then once you do that, there's an option to choose the file. So you click on choose file, find your CSV file that you exported from Bruin Learn. And again, that should be in your downloads folder. So you just select it and then hit open. Once you do that, you should see that the title, you have a preview title of your CSV indicated here, and then you'd hit this validate button. So you'd hit validate, and you're brought to this page where you can review the grade ranges in your course, and you can choose to change this if you like. If this looks good to you, you can hit update. And then once you do that, you should see all your grades populate in MyUCLA. So this gives you another chance to change the letter grades if you want to here. You can also add any comments for students. But you can also compare this with what you have in Bruin Learn. And once you do, if everything looks good to you, then you can hit review for submission. And once you do that, you get this message here that says submit final grades. Click on submit final grades, and that's it. You get a congratulatory message indicating that you submitted final grades. It gives you a timestamp on there too. So that's how to submit final grades to MyUCLA using a CSV file that's exported from your Bruin Learn Gradebook. Again, this guide is available in the end of term grading page. And the second option, how do I export grades from Bruin Learn and upload them to MyUCLA? All right, so that's the option we're recommending. And again, the reason being is that when you export your CSV file, you can check the final score, or the final grade, I should say, final grade, compare that with your gradebook total in Bruin Learn, see that they match up. If they do, these should match up in MyUCLA when you upload your CSV file. Next thing is the second option to send grades to MyUCLA. So some of you, maybe not all of you, will have a MyUCLA gradebook link in your course left navigation menu. Now, again, I can't go through this process because with the student FERPA issue, but we do have a demo of this. And that demo is, or the KB article is this first option, final grade Passback from Bruin Learn to MyUCLA. So if I click on this, again, we kind of preface this knowledge base article with, how to check your Bruin Learn gradebook and make sure it's accurate. We link to that end of term guide. We have a handy video that walks you through this process, and then the step-by-step how-to. So like I said before, if you don't have this MyUCLA gradebook link in your course left navigation menu, that's because your academic unit lead decided not to make it available in your course. And the reason being, or for your unit, the reason being is the AUL probably wants you to use that first option that we're recommending to export to a CSV file, so you can check your final score on the CSV file and compare that with your Bruin Learn gradebook. This other option that I'm showing now kind of skips over that check. So you're basically going right to MyUCLA with this link in your course left navigation menu. So some AULs thought, maybe not to introduce this right away to some of their faculty. But if you do have this, it's your choice to whether if you want to go this route or not. So what you can do is click on this MyUCLA gradebook link. That should open. You should see this button open in new tab. So you click on that. And then this is likely your first time using this process for submitting grades to MyUCLA. So you'll likely run into this authorize MyUCLA link. So you need to click on that, and then that would open up this window, and you'd have to hit authorize on this pop-up window. Sign in if prompted to sign in. And here's a very important part. You want to make sure that you are sending grades to the right course and quarter. So you want to look at the quarter here and select the right quarter and select the right course. When you do that, you can then select this first option. It says use MyUCLA Gradebook Express with grade calculations from Bruin Learn for suggested final letter grades. And that's what you want. So you want to hit that first and then click the proceed button. When you click proceed, you'll have this option here that says update. So when you hit update, it'll then populate all your students with their final grades. And this, you can check your Bruin Learn course site totals and compare it with what you have here in MyUCLA. So you can check that for accuracy. Again, you can choose to change the letter grades here if you like for your students, add any comments. And then it's basically, the same type of thing. You just review for submission and then submit final grades to the registrar. And that's it. So one last time, we do recommend, you go through all these steps, you add zeros, you add EX for excused, post any hidden grades, go through extra credit. And once you kind of review your grade book, we are recommending that first option, which is export to a CSV file. So when you do that, again, compare the final grade column with your Bruin Learn course total here, and they should match up. If they don't match up, then something's missing with the grade values that you have in here. So either maybe you forgot to add a 0 to a grade cell or excused, or maybe you didn't post the hidden grades. Yeah, so that is really what we have here. Again, review the end of term grading Bruin Learn resource page about how to review your grades for accuracy and submit grades to MyUCLA. So we have about 15 minutes or so. So we have time for more Q&A. So if you have any questions, I guess you can use your microphone and state those. Was there anything in the Q&A document?
Greg, this is Michael. Kate has answered most of them. There is a question that just came in from somebody. Can I use point system on Bruin Learn and apply the standard UCLA grade scheme?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the grade scheme isn't based on weighted grades. So if you're using points, you can still apply the UCLA grading scheme. And just so you know, even if you forget to do that, that's fine, because MyUCLA will apply that UCLA grading scheme anyway. But what's nice for you is if when you apply that, you do see letter grade totals here.
Okay, great, thanks. There's another question that just came into chat. Can the final grade be added manually into MyUCLA if you only have a few students?
Yeah, you can choose to, if you're kind of apprehensive about using Bruin Learn, the Bruin Learn Gradebook, you can choose to do all your grading in MyUCLA. So that's still available, and that I don't think they're going to turn that switch off. So you can always, if you're used to grading in MyUCLA, you can still grade in MyUCLA.
Okay, great. Hopefully that answered your question, Philip. Susan's asking, can we make the course evaluation an assignment?
I think maybe I'll ask Peter to go into more detail with this, but the course evaluation, I believe that's available in MyUCLA, or can be available at MyUCLA. And then I know one instructor has done that, where they look at who completed the course eval and then would use an assignment and would tally in points for them. But Peter, do you mind kind of going over that?
Sure, I can chime in on that. Thanks, Greg. So yeah, so similar to how it's been, nothing's really changed on that side. This was the same process when we were on CCLE. It'll be the same process with Canvas, really. It's just a question of how we deal with it ultimately. The availability of that information is within MyUCLA. So it allows you to import that information into MyUCLA Gradebook. Once it's in MyUCLA Gradebook, and key point with that, just to remind folks, it has to be entered into the participation category within MyUCLA Gradebook specifically. Any item, but must be the participation category specifically. Once it's been imported into that item, though, you'd be able to download it, presumably, review the information, and in some form or fashion, get that into Bruin Learn. But that would be a question more for Greg and Kate and team on that side of things. But you'd at least be able to get the information and see who did exactly participate.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Peter.
Scott Dix is asking, can you show how to modify the default UCLA scale? Say 98 is A+, for example.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of new to that, but let me see. I think you can go into the grading scheme in settings. I think you can do this in MyUCLA as well. You know, you have a chance to view the grade ranges and change them, but the view grading scheme is here. I can choose manage grading schemes. And I think, I don't know if I can edit this one. No, I can't edit that one. I could add a grading scheme, call it something, and then I could change these here and create my own, and then save that and use that. But I'm not going to go through all of this, but that's how you would do that. I don't know how that, I think this, every time you would copy your course to the next quarter, you can choose to copy the grading scheme. I don't know if it follows you. I don't know if that grading scheme follows your account or just the course. I'm not sure on that one yet.
Okay,
But this is how you would
that's
apply
good
that.
enough. I got enough. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Scott. Kyung has her hand up. Did you want to ask your question, Kyung? Oh, you're muted right now.
About extra credit question. I think at MyUCLA, it's gonna be all added only to 100%. So you can, you know, it was, I mean, previously I had to juggle around if you wanna use extra credit after like 100%. You have to maneuver it, I would say that, because they keep saying it is over 100%. And I think in my case, because I knew that I used to evaluation status, like giving 1%, you know, 1 point, and it imports to MyUCLA. And it's gotta be on the participation category. But then I think I have a problem because I didn't know how to import it to Bruin Learn, you know? So it's like, it is imported to MyUCLA, but not to Bruin Learn. So I had to enter it kind of manually using the you know, record from MyUCLA. So, and also it depends on really how you're gonna do extra credit, because is it gonna be, you know, because in my case, I kind of gave already extra credit for other assignment. So I didn't want to give as additional one. So I think it's a little bit complicated, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, for MyUCLA, if you're using MyUCLA to grade, yeah, there is an option there to add extra credit. I don't know as much about that, but in Bruin Learn, there's a couple ways to do that. I showed you kind of the quick and simple way. So if you have, I'm going to go back to assignments here. If you're using points, so I can deselect assignment groups. Are you using points or do you have weighted grades at all?
Oh no, I use point, but I mean, I entered on the assignment, but the problem was how to import evaluation status to Bruin Learn, you see.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think you can do it like the way you enter point for performance or attendance participation. But the problem is how to import evaluation status to Bruin Learn extra credit, you see, because it doesn't import to MyUCLA, but how to do it to Bruin Learn assignment scheme. I mean, yesterday, actually, Tommy Chu helped me a lot. So we were juggling around. But I think, when you use evaluation status for extra credit, but in order to import it to Bruin Learn, grading scheme.
To import it.
Yeah. I mean, you
I'm not
can enter
exactly
it
sure on
manually,
that.
but
How many students do you have? Typically?
No, I didn't have many, so it was not a problem. But like this spring, I'm gonna have 150 students, so I'll have to figure out. I can do it the same way that I did for this winter quarter, but for the spring quarter, 150 students, I don't think I could enter it manually. So I'm thinking maybe I should just use MyUCLA. I don't know. I mean, because it took more time than I thought this time. In the last minute. I mean, so I think that becomes a little bit tricky, how to use evaluation status to give extra credit, but then you can do that, but how to import it to Bruin Learn, not to just MyUCLA. So I think that's
right.
If I can jump in here. Sorry, this is Peter from UIT. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there, Greg.
No, go ahead.
The intent is, so what's being reviewed in this session right now is really going to be for the current winter term. We are working on updates and changes to the process that will make things smoother for you for next term. They're just not ready yet. That's why we're not really talking about them in this presentation, really. But since you explicitly asked, I will give you more information. So basically the intent next term is going to be, there will be a more automated method for you to easily, similar to how you were able to link items in CCLE and get them into MyUCLA Gradebook. If you remember that before, right? It's going to be more similar to that. So you would have everything being able to be essentially transferred from Bruin Learn more or less automatically into MyUCLA Gradebook, and then the calculation happens and you can do the grade submission.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Hopefully that kind of gives you more hope for next quarter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wrote that down too, and I think a number of faculty have kind of asked that question: how do you do participation based on course evals? And so I wrote that note, and I'll make sure to follow up with Peter and Tommy and others to maybe work on a knowledge-based article on that one. So thank you.
Just a quick question, Greg. Is it possible to upload Bruin Learn? Sorry.
Spreadsheet or?
Yes, that's what I was going to ask. Sorry, background noise.
Yeah, you can for assignments, but we'd have to look at what kind of format that's exporting from MyUCLA and get that in the right format for Bruin Learn.
Gotcha.
Generally with new gradebook, just for reference, it will allow you to pick the format that you're downloading. It offers either Excel, tab delimited, or CSV. And from what I was able to tell earlier this morning, it looks like Canvas only will work with CSV files. So there could be an option in there to get it into the right format, but how it would easily be able to get uploaded back into Canvas, that I can't speak to.
Yeah, I'll have to get more information on this total process, I think, before I can walk through and demonstrate anything.
And again, this is really just for this quarter.
I think maybe Rachel's next, and maybe if we can come back to you.
So can you finish up the showing us how to do So I also had an extra credit for this quarter. How do I factor it in? So if you want to finish up showing us how to do that, that would be great.
Okay. Are you using points or weighted grades?
I am using points and weighted.
Okay. Oh.
Is that not?
Well, I'll show you how to do both. Yeah, so what the trick here with just if you're using points, this could work to your advantage too if you're using weighted grades. But here's my extra credit assignment. Right now I set it to 10 points because I was demoing how to do extra credit with weighted grades. But what I need to do for points is just set this to 0. So if I set that to 0 points, it's not going to affect those students who decide not to do that because the total is worth 0 points. But any bonus points, they would get bonus points for that if they did complete it.
Oh, I see. So I just excused everyone that didn't do it. But instead, I should just set it to 0. And then if some people do it, they just get an extra point, let's say.
Yeah. You could probably keep the excuse, if it's too much work to go back. But for those students that did it, if you set this to 0, any addition would be a bonus point for them.
And that's the bonus point is affecting the final grade, not anything like, so I have a section that is like portfolios and then another section that's attendance, et cetera. If I wanted to make the extra credit affect the attendance part, how would I do that? I guess that's the weighted question.
And then how are you doing attendance? Are you doing it with the roll call tool?
I did it with roll call because we were hybrid. It's like roll call for some of it.
Sure. Okay.
And then participation, subjective. So I could do it manually. Like I've adjusted some people upwards.
Okay. Yeah, I think you can add bonus points too, just for that assignment for certain students. So in the roll call or in the assignment, let me just go to grades here. Maybe this is called roll call. If you add in 105 points, because I think the total for roll call is like 100 points, unless you've changed that. But if you do like 105 points, that'd be bonus points for them. Does that make sense? It might be, maybe it's something that we can maybe schedule another meeting to work this out, or if you want to stay later. But to do basic point extra credit, set the assignment worth 0 points and then add any bonus points, and these would be bonus points for students. If they got a 0, it won't affect their score. For if you have weighted grades, then I'll change this to weighted grades. So I'm going to set extra credit worth 5%. So my total now is worth 105%. And I need this extra credit assignment to be worth more than 0 so that the calculation, the weighted calculation, there's something that Bruin Learn can calculate here. So I want to change 0 to 10 or 5 or whatever. I'm going to choose 10. And I'll save that. So now if I go back to assignments, or no, well, yeah, we have 5%. We have 100% with all the assignments for the course, and then an extra 5% for the extra credit. So if I go into grades, I can see here that it's worth 10 points, and the extra credit is worth 5% of the total. So these 3 students did the work, and they're, let me just, if I did a 5, maybe they did half the extra credit. Their grade would change a little bit. If I put 0, this would be, their grade is still based on 100%. So if they didn't do the extra credit, it wouldn't affect their scores negatively. But if I did more than that, it would boost their percentages by 5% if they got 100 on the extra credit.
So the weight, I just want to clarify. So if you do it as weighted, it only counts for those people who did it, but it doesn't, it's not punitive for those who didn't do the extra credit? That's
right, if your course total is more than 100%. So if all your assignments equal 100%, and then your extra credit is worth beyond, you know, if it's like worth 5%, so your course total is 105%, student won't be penalized if they don't do the extra credit, because they're still graded out of 100%. Those students that do the extra credit are then get those bonus upwards of 5% bonus points or bonus percentage.
all right.
Kate, I don't know if is there anything I'm missing with that? I know you helped with those videos that we did.
No, there's nothing you're missing. I think you explained it well. It sounds crazy. I mean, right?
It does sound crazy.
It does sound crazy. You're making a category. You're like, I'm going to give some students some points, but no, I mean, when you push the grade above 100%, you're creating this kind of like cushions, extra space. And so the total students could get in the classes. What is your extra credit? 105? Students could get up to 105 in the class, but if they don't do the extra credit, they could get a total maximum of 100, which is still, that's an A or an A plus. So
I have one more question. So in this extra credit place, I actually was like miscellaneous and extra credit because I had so much trouble with Bruin Learn. So if they turned in anything, but it wasn't the extra credit, you know, it's too complicated a question. I'm just going to do this manually. But thank you very much, because in the future, that's a very useful thing to know. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you want to submit a ticket to one of us, you know, should respond to that. Somebody on the academic team, maybe.
I think I might just do it by points this time around. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Ki-young, you have another question?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I had really a trouble. I wanted to finalize and then I wanted to submit the grade. But I think Tommy helped me for a couple of hours and I succeeded.
Oh, wow.
But I think the problem was in Bruin Learn, I had all the grade entered, but it didn't show the total. You know, I mean, and I have it in point, straight point, and then percentage. But then now I'm looking at your screen. It didn't have a total percentage or grade, you see. So maybe because I didn't enable like a grading scheme or whatsoever, I didn't go to settings, you know. Maybe that's what happened, because I had all the columns, you know, there is no missing grade and everything. But it
so
just
you didn't have this.
Yeah, and then the problem was when I imported, it imported. I mean, because I didn't realize that we had to import only final grade. Because when I import, export it. It includes everything, and then, you know, so I mean, later on we had to export each categories to MyUCLA. So what I'm saying here is that in your instructions there should be a mention that you are going to export only final grade, not the entire one, because in my case it just copied all. You know, and then, but then it doesn't import to MyUCLA either. So I had to go back and then by each column, I had to export it like midterm exam, and
Yeah.
then after that paper, and then after that attendance and participation. I mean, I glanced over your instructions, but there is nowhere it said like, okay, you're gonna export only final grade. So I misunderstood. I thought we're gonna export everything, so it just took a lot of time to go by each categories. Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to make sure that that's more explicit
Right.
in
It
the
makes a big
instructions.
difference. I would say that. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing in this end of term grading, we do have a guide here that's imported spreadsheet for assignment grading in MyUCLA. So, which sounds as that's what you did, I believe, where you had to download a
Everything.
spreadsheet and clean it up for each assignment, then upload each spreadsheet to an assignment in MyUCLA. So we do have a guide on that if faculty want to do that. But yeah, final grades, these two resources, and assignment level grading would be this resource. But yeah, we can take a look at these KBs and make sure that maybe this is uploading final grades to MyUCLA here.
Yeah, that's
make that more explicit.
Yeah, that's much easier. I mean, we didn't have to go through it, Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
None in chat. We did have somebody asking when the video is going to be available, Greg, but I'd said I didn't know what all our schedules were. So it typically, it's got to render after this session.
Yeah, and I don't know. I could probably edit that, but probably won't have that until
Monday morning.
To get it to the right people. Yeah, probably Monday.
Yeah, I told them early next week. Okay.
Yeah. This guide though does include a lot of mini videos on each thing that we went through. So assignment groups and weight grades, set default grades for missing assignments, hiding and posting grades, extra credit, and then we have video walkthroughs on both of these options about submitting final grades to MyUCLA. So we might not have a complete hour-long recording, but we have a lot of the main pieces either as a guide or a video in this document. All right, if that's all, if there aren't any other questions, thank you so much for coming to training, and I hope this was helpful. Thank you for those questions that you did submit, and we'll look at those and make sure that we address them and create that evaluation KB and make the final grades more explicit, maybe tackle more how to different scenarios with extra credit. So we'll take a look at that and develop resources for you. All right, thank you so much. I think I'm going to stop share and the recording.
Thank you all for joining.